I remember 10 years before, your record company told me, Dione will come. And I was so happy. Yeah? And then she's not so fine and she needs to stay at home because she's not healthy and so on. But now you're here and that is fine.
That sounds so strange. I've been healthy my entire life. And I made it.
Yeah.
10 years later.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well done.
So, we missed you and your music in the last years. Why we needed to wait so long?
Well, obviously, a girl who is writing songs a lot. I write and I write and I write. So 2 years ago, I released Can't Still the Music. And I think sometimes it takes time when you have to live your life and tell your stories. And I'm a storyteller. So to me, the music is also about my life. And I also need to live to tell the good stories.
So, and I heard your relationship ended. Was that a reason too to say, okay, I need a longer break?
No, I'm always working and I'm always writing and I'm always touring. It's not really always up to me. The universe always also plays in. Yeah, I was so young when I started. I was 17. I was playing on my guitar in the street in Australia. And that's kind of how I wrote my first album. So now with Shania Twain coming out, this new song, it's like, that's a different chapter now.
Interesting new chapter. Your real name is Maria Louise Johnson.
Yes.
I always wanted to hear the story behind the name Aura Dione.
Well, Aura was kind of a nickname that my friends gave me when I was like a teenager. And Dione is actually the name of my mother's side of the family.
And we know your parents were hippies, yeah, traveled around the world. How can we imagine your childhood? Make us a little bit jealous.
I'd rather inspire. I grew up sailing with my parents. They really loved being on the ocean and had a very free life. And when I was 8, we moved to Bornholm, eine kleine Insel in die Ostsee. Sagt man das?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that was a really kind of very peaceful time of my life. And that's when I started to play guitars and play piano and write songs. I always had a huge hunger. I wanted to live life and fast. And I had so many dreams. I was a good dreamer. That's how I kind of imagined my first album. That was when I Will Love You Monday and Song for Sophie and those songs came out. It was just like part of this really little girl dream.
Especially Song for Sophie. We're still playing every week in this radio station from the beginning, since 10 years. We love that song.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yes. In which age did you feel music will be my life? When did you wrote your first song?
I don't know, but I do know that I would tell my mom what to write before I could write. I would give her the lyrics and the melodies and she would write it down for me. I didn't have a lot of instruments I had instruments, but when you're on a boat and you grow up, you don't have a lot of friends. So the instruments were kind of my friends, and probably that's how I kind of started writing.
We go back to the new single. It's called Shania Twain. Everybody knows the name Shania Twain, but what's the story behind that song?
Shania Twain was this iconic woman, for those who don't know her. In the 90s, she wore the leopard print and she sang, "That don't impress me much. Oh yeah, so you got the looks, but have you got the touch now? No, don't get me wrong, yeah, I think you're alright, but that won't keep me warm in the middle of the night." You know?
When I close my eyes, I think Shania Twain is here.
No, but that song was amazing and it's one of my favorite songs. She was so cheeky, she had a great sense of humor, and she was such a power woman. And I thought to myself, I want to write a song that makes me feel as good as she did when I grew up and I heard her song for the first time. And I just came out of a relationship, so I thought I need to recycle the pain and go from heartbreak to hope and from pain to power. So that's what Shania Twain, my song, is about.
At the end of this relationship, what was the first thing you did as a single girl?
Well, I guess I went to Himalaya and I started climbing Mount Everest. And that took 34 days to kind of climb, walk, think. And then I came back to Copenhagen and I started writing this new album.
When we talk about idols like Shania Twain, I heard one of your big idols is Dolly Parton. What did you learn from her?
Dolly Parton is an amazing woman. She wrote 5,000 songs, released more than 50 albums. And also she wrote one of my favorite songs of all time, love songs that many of us grew up with, from Whitney Houston, "I Will Always Love You." Kind of forget that she's actually the authentic writer of that song. I think it's one of the best love songs ever written. But other than that, I just love storytellers. And I think she's a great storyteller.
Jolene.
Yes, that's actually my favorite song.
Yes, for sure. Last year you've been touring through Germany, I heard. What kind of feeling was it being back in Germany?
Well, I'm here right now and it feels amazing. Summer is just coming now. As we can all feel, it's like that energy, when it hits you and you're like, oh, wow, it's going to be good. So that's what I'm feeling. And I have a tour in December. I'm going to come to Germany for about 2.5 weeks touring. And obviously a lot of shows to hear during the summer as well.
Very fine. So, what kind of feeling is it now hearing one of your songs on the German radio?
It's still as good as it was the first time. I still think it's magical, it's invisible, and all of a sudden this piece of music shows up that I put my heart into. It's wonderful.
And now imagine you're driving around, maybe in Copenhagen, and in the radio they are playing our Dione. What do? Turn up or turn down the volume?
Usually I turn up, and then actually I'm sometimes thinking, ooh, I made that choice. I made that choice. Interesting. I've also tried hearing a song on the radio and being like, that's the kind of song I want to write. And then I realized it was myself. So sometimes I write the songs and I let them go. It's interesting like that. But I think it's because I am a writer and I am a songwriter. So, when you're always working on something, you don't think about the things you did in the past. But when they show up, it's like my friends. Ooh, there you were. Hey, Sophie.
Let's go back to Germany. When you think about Germany, what is the first thing you think about? The people, the food, or something else?
It's probably structure, because I've never felt as good and as safe as when I work with my German team. They're very, very good at being very loyal, and my fans as well. I've had them for 10 years now, and they're just they're probably my best fans in the sense that it's like they keep their promises and they're expecting me to keep mine too. And I like that. It's like a family, like a very strong connection.
And we like it to be a family. That can we say here in Germany. You've been here in Germany so many times. You know some German words. I heard Insel in der Ostsee. Okay, what else?
Das weiß ich nicht. Ich spreche nicht so viel Deutsch, aber ich verstehe alles, weil ich habe viele Tage in Deutschland trainiert. Sagst du das?
Ja, gelernt, trainiert. Yes.
Ja, du bist mein Freund. Du bist mein Lieber. Das ist Spaß.
Very important to know.
Ja, kein Totentanz mit mir.
I don't know situations where you need that, but okay. So, for all our listeners, they maybe one day want to go to Denmark. What do we need to visit in your homeland?
I think that Denmark is cute in many ways. We have our queen, and we have a lot of little castles, and we have a lot of people on bikes, especially girls in the summer wearing beautiful dresses. And there is a certain feeling of freedom. So I think if you want to experience freedom, and maybe Christiania as well, where you can still walk around and see the hippie life from the 60s and 70s. That is also quite unique. And we have the cleanest water in the world. I read last year in New York Times. So you can actually swim in the harbor of Copenhagen.
Yes, and we know a famous prison in Copenhagen from the Olsenbande.
Yes. You know what? My friend who studied to be a doctor, he told me that the head of Egon Olsen is actually when you study to be a doctor, it's in the department because he donated his head. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that sounds
and a bit
crazy.
Weird. This is just information you don't need at all in the radio talking about Shania Twain.
We talk about both Shania Twain and the head of Egon Olsen. How do you like our German breakfast?
I'm not super into it because I don't eat breakfast. So normally if I have to have breakfast, I will just have some juice and maybe a coffee. I'm not a breakfast person. I work late nights, I write songs at night, and I like to wake up late and have like spaghetti bolognese or something like that. Like I like my dinner for breakfast.
Okay, but we need to know what is a typical Danish breakfast.
I guess I like croissants and coffee. That's actually how I like it. A typical Danish breakfast is probably, well, these days everyone is so healthy. So it's like chia seeds. Like, what? Everybody is eating chia seeds. I don't know, in the past it was probably just eggs and rye bread, something like that. Quite simple.
So from Denmark we know big musicians like Hugo Helmi and our Dione. What would you say is the biggest musician in Denmark now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Lucas Graham is doing incredibly well. He was nominated for a Grammy. His song 7 Years was a really good song. I also think that Mo is doing very well. She's the female singer from Copenhagen. She is one of my favorite artists. She's also an incredibly sweet person. So a lot of great Danish musicians are coming out since the last couple of years.
So can we expect now a new album this year?
Yes, I am trying to get it done before the end of the year, but I have a feeling it's going to come out early next year. But I will keep on releasing singles. I have so many new songs.
So what are your plans for the rest of 2019?
I'm going to do a lot of touring, a lot of promotion across Europe. I'm going to finish this album, and I'm also going to try and enjoy myself a little bit, because I have had a crazy heartache while I wrote Shania Twain, and now I just want to fall in love with the world and myself.
Hope you come back. Yeah?
I'm
Thank
excited
you.
too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Alles klar.